Thank you very much, Mick, and thank you very much for asking me to participate in your national dialogue. I have to say it's great to see these national dialogue taking place. There's been a very active dialogue here in Ireland, and it's really great that this input is being fed into the United Nations for the summit in September time. One of the difficulties that coming forth in the evening is, particularly when you've got three stunning speakers in front of you, what is left to be said? And the title I was given, what is the role of global meat sector in future-proofing our food systems and protecting against shocks and stresses? So, I mean, I'm going to say from the outset, for me, it has a vital role. And we've already heard from Diana about the role, the key role that livestock products play in a healthy human diet. For ruminant agriculture, and one of the beauties about ruminant agriculture is they can eat non-human edible plant-based material and turn it into highly nutritious meat and milk. And I have to say, in Ireland, there are an awful lot of our soils, just as there are in Australia, that you should not be looking to cultivate. You should not be looking to pull up the carbon and be putting in human edible crops. So for us, having ruminant agriculture that is consuming plant foods that we can't eat and turning it into highly nutritious meat and milk is fundamental. But we have a challenge, and if we're going to protect against shocks and stresses, the biggest shock, I think, at this stage, I'm the privilege now of being both a father and a grandfather, is to have my children turn against me and say, you're a pariah, you're involved in producing ruminant agriculture, and we are passionate about our climate for our kids. And I understand that, but actually, we have been vilified, we have been made a pariah, and actually we have a job of work to do to recorrect, reset, recalibrate the public narrative out there. So I want to highlight 4 areas that I feel we need to address and have recognized if we're going to protect against shocks and stresses, if we're going to play this vital role. Next slide, please. So the first one is actually, getting society to recognize that meat production delivers multiple public goods. In Ireland, our big issue at the moment, 33% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from agriculture and food production, because we have no heavy industry in our economy. So it's not being diluted like many other developed world economies are by heavy industry. On our research farm in Devenish, in County Meath in Ireland, we have really gone to bring transparency to the multiple public goods that we deliver as livestock farmers. We bought our research farm in 2013, and we made no apologies. We started focusing on the soil, because if you want to help society, there is only one health, and it starts in the soil. So we really started to look at our soil fertility, soil health, before then moving on to actually talking and quantifying carbon sequestration. It is probably the least well understood. Certainly for the last 15 years, nations around the world have been investing in working out mitigation options and mitigation factors, with very little money being spent on working out sequestration factors. So we want to really address that using new technologies like aerial LiDAR to give us accurate assessments of the amount of above ground biomass and measuring soil carbon to actually work out accurately how much carbon is under our soils. But on top of that, we have a huge role too in producing good quality water, flood risk management, and actually using some of these new digital technologies to give us our routes over land flow so that we can then put in landscape interventions to actually mitigate flooding, hold water back up, or reduce soil and nutrient runoff into watercourses. And on top of that, we have this extraordinary challenge of biodiversity. And quite interestingly, on our farm, We have the privilege of looking after Ireland's top mammal, red deer, but they're very sore on our trees, yet we want our trees to be actively sequestering carbon. So actually working out those trade-offs and doing that, in our case, in a World Heritage Site, where we're actually trying to enhance 6,000 years of farming evolution. So quite clearly, we need to measure it accurately, create baselines, and then measure change against those baselines and communicate them and prove to society that we are delivering these multiple public goods. Next slide. The next issue we have to address, and particularly in the conversation about net zero, is that the term net zero was picked astutely and correctly. And it's not about gross zero. And what do I mean by that? Well, currently, our sector is the only sector in the economy that is measured on gross emissions. So when our products are put through a life cycle assessment calculator, they have emission factors the whole way through for every activity. But they don't understand that the same farmer, his farm or her farm business, are actually sequestering, in many cases, considerable amounts of greenhouse gas emissions. And so really what we've been trying to do, and have succeeded in doing, is not only working out our annual gross greenhouse gas emissions, but actually working out our annual gross carbon sequestration. And when you have an answer to both of those, you can work out your net carbon position. And when you do this, in many, certainly ruminant agricultural businesses, you find that your picture is nowhere near it is currently being reported at in a gross emission situation. So one of the key things we have to do is change the narrative about how our industry is measured. And we must do that in regards benchmarking ourselves on net emissions, not gross emissions. Next slide. What is extraordinary for me as I participate in this public dialogue across the world is how so many people are not prepared to recognize the innovation pipeline. I've taken this slide from Australia. It's being produced by SARO and MLA, and it's about looking at all the different mitigation options that are out there or in the innovation pipeline. I personally have had the pleasure of going to visit two really good Australian pieces of work. One is around Asparagopsis red algae, and one is around Leucaena, nitrogenous tree within silver pasture. Two nature-based solutions. There are many more out there. We've talked about genetics. There are many other solutions out there. So it really frustrates me when I see many of our critics going to say, well, actually the solution is just kill the national herd. There is no recognition, no proper recognition of the innovation pipeline and how the innovation pipeline will actually help us on this journey to net zero. And we need to get it properly recognized. Next slide, please. And the last slide I want to leave with you is the one thing that Eat Lancet, and I go back to Max and Diana, who flagged up the Eat Lancet Commission report 2 years ago, is whether you like or don't like what they said, they did do us one service, and that is they coupled human health and planetary health together. And I think that's really important, because if we're serious about delivering planetary health and human health simultaneously, then we need to move on and actually find smart metrics that measure our industry's performance that deliver both simultaneously. I've got in this busy slide 3 different examples of metrics. The first one, which is up on the top right-hand corner, is this horizontal bar chart, is looking at the greenhouse gas footprint of different food products per 100 grams. And it's divided into different food categories. And what you can see, the 2 worst ones, One is meat and meat products, one is milk and dairy products, and the best one being fruits and vegetables. But it has no bearing on a nutritional human health benefit. What this team has done, Devenish and et al., is they've actually looked at what other metrics could you use. So the lower right-hand bar chart is actually looking at greenhouse gas footprint of different food products per 100 calories. So at least starting to recognize that in our food groupings, we need something that reflects on nutrition. When you do that, you get a perverse outcome. And that perverse outcome is that fruits and vegetables come out worse and sweets come out best. And really, looking at a greenhouse gas metric with just calories isn't the answer. And certainly, we've been very impressed with their efforts to look at a smarter metric. And the bottom left-hand image that I show you here is an analysis that they have done where they've looked at the greenhouse gas footprint of food against a basket of nutrient density of the 15 key micronutrients we need for healthy life. And when you look at the circles, the red circles are claimed as other foods, that's plant-based foods, and the blue are meat and dairy products. And if you need, along the x-axis, over 100 units of nutrient density of this main 15 key basket of 15 key micronutrients, livestock products have a vital role to deliver this. And we know that plant-based foods are low on greenhouse gas footprint, but their nutrient density and diversity are not good. So ultimately, if we're to deliver both human health and environmental health simultaneously, we need to find smart metrics that deliver both outcomes simultaneously. Thank you.